Buying a used guitar can be a whole ordeal, but it doesn't really have to be. It'll definitely get you the most bang for your money, and all you gotta really do is focus on these 5 things and you'll be golden. So hello everybody and welcome to a new video and welcome to my channel where we talk about everything music from death metal to Queen and everything in between. On today's video, I'll show you the 5 things you have to check on before buying a used guitar. So on Instagram and YouTube, I constantly get the message asking me, "Hey Pat, what guitar do you think I should buy?" And having been in the musical instrument retail business for over 10 years, I am actually trained in this matter. So there's always 4 questions I like to ask him before considering an answer. What kind of music do you want to play on it? How long have you been playing guitar for? What do you have now and what's your budget? Those 4 questions basically simplify it all. And then once I get that answered, I can actually steer them in the right direction. Now, more often than not, I'm actually going to point them at a used guitar. I am a huge advocate of used gear. There's a lot of advantages to be had when buying a used guitar. First of all, you get more bang for your money. Typically, if you're looking at a $500 guitar new, you get it for like $350, $400. So there's savings right there. But if you had the $500 to spend, you might actually look at a $750 guitar and still be able to get it for $500. So there's a lot of savings to be had. And more often than not, you actually get a better guitar than the one you could afford new. Also, a lot of times, a used guitar comes with upgrades. Sometimes they upgrade the pickups, sometimes they do the electronics, and usually they're not even factored into the price of the guitar. Also, the guitar is usually broken in and worn in and ready to go, which is great. A lot of times, and this is personal, when I buy a new guitar, I don't want to touch it, I don't want to play it, because I don't want to mess it up and scratch it or ding it up or anything like that, so it stays in the case, and that's not really what we want a guitar for. So yeah, I'm a big fan, huge fan of used guitars. Now, that being said, sadly, there's also a downside to buying a used guitar, and most of them actually come down to the seller. Be it ignorance or just the fact that they're trying to screw you, there's a lot of lemons out there. But Pat, having been in charge of purchasing used guitars for SamAsh for a long time, got a lot of training, and I am here to share that information with you guys. So let's get to the 5 things you got to check on a guitar before you purchase a used guitar. Just really quickly, before we get to that, if you do find some value on this video or the channel, please make sure you subscribe to this channel like a man if you haven't yet, and drop me a like and a comment in the comment section down below. That way I know that what I'm sharing is actually helping out people. And if you'd really like to contribute to the channel and to help us make more videos like this, please consider becoming a patron to the channel. A little goes a long way and we surely do appreciate it. I'll link to it in the description box below. Alright, so without further ado, 5 things you got to check on a guitar before purchasing a used guitar. Now keep in mind, a guitar is actually a very simple instrument and most of the things on a guitar are very easy to fix, but a lot of them are actually going to cost you a pretty penny. Sometimes it's not even going to be worth buying the guitar and then fixing, because once you factor in the price of fixing the guitar, you might have actually spent more money than to just buy the guitar flat out new, or a guitar that has no issues for a little bit more money. So some of these things are actually deal breakers, and I'll tell you what they are, but some of these, if you just point them out to the seller, you might actually get a better deal on the guitar itself, and then you can just send it to somebody to get it fixed, or better yet, just do it yourself and save some coin. I would definitely recommend that if you're thinking about buying a used guitar, go to a reputable dealer. Go to SamAsh, Guitar Center, your mom and pop store down the street, because I am sure they've already checked all of this, and also they've made sure that the guitar is not stolen before it's up for sale. And most of these stores usually have a few guitars for you to try out, and also they have some sort of warranty, so if you decide you don't really like the guitar you bought, you can just take it back and exchange it for a different guitar, or put some more money on a different guitar and just get something better. Now, if for some reason you don't want to buy it at a store and you just want to buy it from somebody, make sure you tell them that you are going to check the guitar to see if it is in fact what it claims to be. That way the seller knows you mean business, that you've done your research, and that he has to plan accordingly. That way he's not in a rush to just dump the guitar and leave. Take a screwdriver with you and make sure that you can plug into something to test it out. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing and the most important thing I want you to check on is to make sure that the guitar you're purchasing actually is what it claims to be. As a senior department manager in the guitar department at SamAsh, I've seen a lot of Gibsons in my day, and they all had very credible stories, like my mom got it for me as a gift, I inherited this guitar, this used to belong to my dad, this used to belong to my grandfather, whatever. People can make up very credible stories, but what they can't do is make a Gibson into a Gibson. Also, Gibsons, or Chinese Gibsons, have become better and better over time. So yeah, it's getting harder and harder to actually spot them, but luckily there's a couple tales. Okay, so usually after seeing a couple of the Gibsons, you can really tell what they are because of the shoddy workmanship and the lousy paint jobs and stuff like that. You know, the finish is just not quite there yet, but they are getting better. So I would definitely advise you to research a guitar before purchasing it, especially if you're looking at a high-ticket guitar. Like if you're looking for a Gibson, for instance, make sure you have the pulse on the bridge and the thumb wheel as opposed to screws. No Gibson has screws on the bridge. They always have poles and thumb wheels. There's a ton of things to look for, and I'll do a different video for that, but what I am going to tell you is do your research and compare the picture pictures online to the guitar you're buying. Really zoom in on the details. Another thing that's a clear tell is the quality of the hardware. And if you're buying a guitar with a Floyd Rose, pay close attention to the screws and the saddles, because the knockoff ones wear out super easily. Oh yeah, and since we're talking about research, make sure you research the asking price and make sure you're actually getting a deal. Make sure the asking price is fair both ways, because if they're giving you a hell of a deal and it just seems too good to be true, it probably is. So yeah, if it's priced very low for what it is, be double careful before buying it. Alright, the second most important thing you gotta check on a guitar before buying it is the way it looks and the way it plays. I know it's a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people actually buy a guitar they don't really like because of the name or because somebody else recommended it or had it, and they don't really take the time to actually sit down with it and play it before buying it. And don't get me wrong, looks are hella important. Make sure you like the body shape, make sure it's comfortable, and make sure you like the color on the guitar, because if you like the guitar, you're more inclined to actually pick it up and play it. And that's the main goal. But also, more important than anything else, make sure it feels awesome. Make sure it's the right fit. Make sure the neck is comfortable. Make sure you can reach every note you need to play. And also, if you actually go to a store, make sure you compare it to every other guitar within your budget, and maybe even a little more, because you know, sometimes an extra $100 or $200 can show up out of nowhere for that awesome guitar. I sure banked on that as a salesman. Which takes us to the third most important thing you gotta check on a guitar before buying it, and that's the wood, the body, and the neck of the guitar. Really the only parts that can't really be replaced. So of course, if we're looking at a used guitar, chances are there's going to be some nicks, some kinks on the guitar itself, and that's fine. That's, you know, character. That's awesome. But what I do want you to pay close attention to are hairline cracks. If you see a hairline crack, make sure that the wood is not cracked. A lot of times the hairline crack can just be the paint. It is made out of wood, so the wood is going to expand and contract due to weather. So if it's hot, it's going to expand, and if it's humid, it's going to be even worse. And then when it gets cold, it contracts, so that movement can actually crack the paint that's over it, and that's okay, that's fine. But if you drop a guitar, if you hit a guitar hard, you can actually crack the wood, and those are the guitars we want to avoid. If you're looking at a guitar and it's got a hairline crack to the wood, be very careful, because that might be a deal breaker. If the hairline crack, it's at the neck joint right here, or maybe even, you know, on the headstock, I'd be very careful with it on a Les Paul. Now, Strats can actually be a lot more forgiving, but if you see a hairline crack here or here, like on the neck pocket, I'd be very careful with it. Just make sure that the crack actually got to the wood. If it's just paint, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't even give it a second thought. Which takes us to the next point I want to make about the neck. This can happen on set necks, but it's especially true on bolted on necks. And what I want you to do is make sure that the neck belongs to the body. Because of the fact that these have screws, they can just be replaced. There's no glue under this, so you can just unscrew them and put any old neck on it and it'll be fine. And of course, what sometimes happens is that they will slap an actual Fender neck onto something else's body and try to sell it off as an expensive Fender. So the only thing you can do without a lot of research is to make sure that at the very least the neck and the neck pocket are aligned properly and perfectly. See, for instance, on this example, you can see that the neck and the body itself fit perfectly. Strat necks and bodies have all sorts of shapes, but they are made for each other. So if you see that the neck is a little bit narrower than the pocket, or vice versa, run. Don't buy the guitar. Really, if you play the guitar and you fell in love with it, screw it. Doesn't really matter. But know that that neck does not belong to that body. Now, speaking of things not aligning properly, take a look at the nut on the guitar. Make sure that it's set, so it's glued on, that it doesn't move, and also make sure that it's aligned with the fretboard. Nuts can be replaced, and it's actually a fairly common fix, but make sure that at least the nut they put on the fretboard is the right width and that it's good quality. If the nut is made out of plastic, think about replacing it soon. And also, while we're looking at the nut, make sure that it's not filed down too low, meaning the slots where the strings rest, it's not very close to the fretboard itself, because if it is, it's going to fret out up here. If you get fret buzz on the first fret, it might be because of the fact that this might have been filed down way too low. And that's not fixable. You got to replace the nut altogether. And that can be pricey. It's not very pricey, but you're looking at 40, 50 bucks at least. Also, when you started looking for fret buzz here, make sure you play the whole guitar and look for fret buzz. Just play it up and down the neck, and also do bends. Look for any dead spots. Now, dead spots are not necessarily a deal breaker. We just got to know why that's happening. So the next thing we need to do is look down the neck to see if it's warped, if the neck is bowed, humped, or twisted. So now how do we do this? we want to do this. We want to grab the guitar and look down the neck, like so. You want to use one of the strings as a guide, and you want to compare how straight the fretboard is in comparison to the string. So if you see him doing something like this, then it's bowed. If it's doing something like this, where it gets closer to the strings up here, then it's humped. But if you see it angle left or right, if you see it pivot, that is a twist. You do not want that. A bow or a hump is a very easy fix, and you can just have it set up and be perfect, but a twist is a very expensive and difficult thing to fix. So unless you're getting a smoking deal on something, that would be a deal breaker for me. Now, if the neck is bowed or humped, that's a fairly easy fix, providing that the truss rod is functional. So every electric guitar has a truss rod, which is basically essentially just a big old screw that goes all the way from here to here. So just make sure that works. You can tap on the back of it. If there's any rattle, chances are that's broken, and that's another very expensive fix. So I would definitely steer away from that. But also, if you want to make super sure that it works, just stick an Allen wrench in here and just turn it ever so slightly left and right and see if there's any resistance. Chances are, if there's resistance, then it's functional, it works. On Les Pauls, you'll actually find the truss rod underneath this cover, and you'll need a special tool that comes with the guitar to test it out. Now, number 4, and we're starting to get into the easier ones, is to check the hardware. Make sure that all of the hardware is functional and true to the guitar. Make sure it doesn't have a lot of rust, and if it does have rust, make sure that it works. Make sure that you can actually turn it as needed, because I've seen a lot of bridges be messed up because one of the screws was rusted out and they had to replace the whole thing because of one rusted out screw. So make sure that everything lines up, make sure that everything works, and by that I mean the posts, the saddles, the tuning keys. Make sure that every tuning key works properly, and also make sure that every saddle, every screw, everything is the same color, because it might have been replaced by a lower quality aftermarket part that is just going to be a headache down the line. So if you spot something odd, make sure you bring it up to the seller's attention and knock some dollars off of that so that you can replace that part. And last but not least, make sure that all of the electronics are working properly on the guitar. Check out the input jack, wiggle the cable, make sure that it doesn't pop. Try out every knob, bring the volume up, the volume down. Tap on it too as well, make sure that nothing pops, nothing cuts off. Make sure that the pickup switch is completely functional. Of course, make sure that the pickups sound the way they're supposed to sound. It is your right as a buyer to check and make sure that the pots and the pickup switch are original. And if not, make sure that they're good quality parts. And if you really want to get into it, check out the pickups and make sure they belong to the guitar. Unless noted, of course. Anyway guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please drop me a like if you did. Drop me a comment in the comment section down below with any questions you may have. And if you've got an extra minute, just check out one of these 2 videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bat out, middle on, dudes.